Hello, everyone, and welcome to our reading and analysis of William Shakespeare's Hamlet. Thank you so much. Sorry for a slight delay as we had a cable issue, but we're ready to go now. If you're joining for the first time in these series, I read a play from scene to scene, start to finish, every word of the play. And as I read it, I'll pause from time to time to analyze it, talk about it, and eventually I'll go back, remaster the whole thing, clean it up, put text on screen, all that sort of stuff. But this is just to have a discussion about it, get the words out there, and read an entire play and hopefully answer any questions that pop up along the way. So before we dive into Hamlet, I actually want to talk really briefly about a different book, not a play, but a book about plays called Backwards and Forwards. So this is all about script analysis. And I want to read one sentence from here, where the author, David Ball, says, William Shakespeare's Hamlet is referred to over and over in this book. Read Hamlet and have it at hand when reading Backwards and Forwards. That's really fascinating because I can't think of very many books that start by telling you to read another book. But of course, the assumption is that you already know this play, that if you're studying theater at all, you're familiar with Hamlet. It is the most famous play by the most famous playwright of all time. But why is that? Well, I hope by the end of this series, we'll be able to answer that question. One thing we got to talk about right away is that just looking at Hamlet, you can tell why it maybe stands out a little bit. This is the play we did last, A Midsummer Night's Dream. And this right here is Hamlet. So as you can see, Hamlet is a pretty beefy play. And in fact, it's the longest play that Shakespeare wrote. So that is part of the appeal or part of the reputation of it. It's the most Shakespeare you can get in a Shakespeare play. But I would argue it's not just the size of the play, that there's something deeper to it than that. And we'll see if we can, like I said, figure that out as we go along. So let's dive in to Act 1, Scene 1. There is a link in the description below to the Folger edition of this play, the digital copy, if you want to follow along there. But any copy of the play should work. So we have Bernardo and Francisco, who are two sentinels, two guards. Bernardo says, "Who's there?" Famous opening for a play. Almost every line in this play is famous by this point because it's such a famous play. But the opening line, it's worth talking a little bit about. Who's there tells us that people can't see exactly what's going on. We'll figure out in a few more lines that it's nighttime, so you don't know exactly what's happening, but it's also a question. And it makes sense that this play starts with a question. The most famous line in all of Shakespeare, all of theater, maybe all of the English language is "to be or not to be." That is the question, which is of course from Hamlet. So we start with a question. There'll be a lot more questions as we go. Who's there? Nay, answer me. Stand and unfold yourself. Explain or reveal your identity. Long live the king. Bernardo, he. You come most carefully upon your hour. 'Tis now struck 12. Get thee to bed, Francisco. For this relief much thanks. 'Tis bitter cold, and I am sick at heart. So in those quick little lines, we see that people are a little on edge, right? This guard is wanting to identify who it might be that is approaching, and they're very quick to identify who they are. But of course, I mean, guards are supposed to guard things, so that makes sense. More interestingly, we see that it is cold outside. We see that it is past midnight, and we know that we are at a place that we're at the castle, right? Which you'll be able to tell with the set. But just in the script itself, you can already tell it's a place worth guarding, right? For this relief, much thanks. 'Tis bitter cold, and I am sick at heart. Have you had quiet, guard? So Bernardo asks that of Francisco. Have you had quiet, guard, right? What has been happening? Not a mouse stirring. Well, good night. If you do meet Horatio and Marcellus, the rivals of my watch, bid them make haste. So rivals here means fellows. It's one of those words that's changed meaning a little bit since Shakespeare's time. So it's not like a rival, like a competitor. It's just a person who does the same thing here, not necessarily a competitor. And then we have Horatio and Marcellus, the people just mentioned, enter. I think I hear them. Stand ho, who's there? Friends to this ground. and liegeman to the Dane. So this play takes place in Denmark, so the Dane would be the king of Denmark. Give you good night. Oh, farewell, honest soldier. Who hath relieved you? Bernardo hath my place. Give you good night. So Francisco exits. So now we've got three characters on stage, Marcellus and Bernardo, and then Horatio. And Horatio stands out. You'll be able to tell in these next couple lines why Horatio is a little different than these other characters. Holla, Bernardo. Funny line. Holla, Bernardo. Say, what? Is Horatio there? A piece of him. So that line, Horatio is saying a piece of him. It could mean that he's not fully awake yet. Like, oh, part of me is here. The part of me that's awake is here, right? It could mean that he's like freezing and like shriveling up, like, whoa, it's so cold, like I'm not all the way here. It could be that it's dark and you can barely see each other. Or it could be just being humorous, right? We don't know exactly. That's what makes plays interesting. You can play things different ways. But either way, Horatio stands out from the other characters, and we'll see that even more. Welcome, Horatio. Welcome, good Marcellus. What has this thing appeared again tonight? I have seen nothing. So that word, thing, what has this thing appeared again tonight, makes the audience lean in. We already got that line, have you had quiet guard? Like, anything interesting happened while you were on patrol? And now we get, has this thing appeared? Not intruder, not thief, not culprit, a thing. And we'll see why it's described as a thing. Horatio says, 'tis but our fantasy, and will not let belief take hold of him, touching this dreaded sight twice seen of us. So Marcellus and Bernardo have twice seen this thing, but Horatio thinks they're making it up, or it's, just their imagination. Therefore, I have entreated him, along with us, to watch the minutes of this night, that, if again this apparition come, he may approve our eyes and speak to it. So there's the thing, the apparition. It's a ghost that's been seen. Tush, tush, 'twill not appear. Sit down a while, and let us once again assail your ears that are so fortified against our story, what we have 2 nights seen. Well, sit we down, and let us hear Bernardo speak of this. So that's what sets Horatio apart from the others. He doesn't believe that this ghost is real, or this thing they've been talking about is real, but they've seen it twice, apparently, so they do believe it. And they've brought Horatio there to corroborate what they've seen and prove to him that a ghost has been wandering the battle, not the battlefield, the ramparts of the castle, the battlements of the castle. Last night of all, when yon same star that's westward from the pole, so that'd be the North Star, hath made his course to illume that part of heaven where now it burns, Marcellus and myself, the bell then beating 1. So he's telling him about the last time the ghost appeared. And here we have ghost appears, enter ghost, famous stage direction. A ghost appears on stage. Peace, break thee off. Look where it comes again. And the same figure like the king that's dead. Thou art a scholar, speak to it, Horatio. Looks he not like the king? Mark it, Horatio. Most like it harrows me with fear and wonder. Sorry, harrows me with fear and wonder. So a harrow was, this is the reason why I love the Folger edition. It means torment, but it's a farm implement used to break up the ground. So I have a nice picture in the edition there. So you can see that is used to break up the ground, like aerate the ground. So that would be a painful thing to have happen to you. So it'd be tormenting, right? So we see Horatio is a scholar. That's one of the reasons why he's skeptical of the ghost, and one of the reasons why they brought him there to talk to the ghost. But of course, now he believes because he sees the ghost right in front of him. It would be spoke to, speak to it, Horatio. What art thou that usurpest this time of night, together with that fair and warlike form in which the majesty of buried Denmark did sometimes march? By heaven, I charge thee, speak. It is offended. See, it stalks away. Stay, speak, speak. I charge thee, speak. Ghost exits. So charge means command. And while the ghost didn't talk, the other characters on stage did. And you'd be able to see this watching the play, but reading it, you have to envision it. We get a description of what the ghost is dressed like and who the ghost appears to be. And that is the former king of Denmark, the king of Denmark who has died. That happens to be Hamlet, not Hamlet on the title. That would be the son of this thing, the ghost looks like. So Hamlet Senior former king of Denmark, is who they say the ghost resembles, and he seems to be dressed for war. But they try and command the ghost. They charge, I command thee, I charge thee, speak, and it just vanishes. 'Tis gone and will not answer. How now, Horatio, you tremble and look pale. Is not this something more than fantasy? What think you on? So Bernardo's happy to be proven right. Like, look how scared you are. See, told you we weren't making it up. Before my God, I might not this believe without the sensible and true avouch of mine own eyes. Avouch here means testimony. So the only reason I was able to believe it is I saw it. And that's a theme that will happen in Hamlet as well. You have suspicion, but can you trust suspicion? Can you trust your gut feeling, your suspicions, the supernatural? Can you trust those things, or do you have to prove them and see them with your own eyes first? Is it not like the king, as thou art to thyself? So he looks as much like the king as you look like you. Such was the very armor he had on when he the ambitious Norway combated. So frowned he once when in an angry parley he smote the sledded Pollux on the ice. 'Tis strange. So we get this history of warfare, wars against Norway and wars against Poland, that this king, who the ghost looks like, had fought when he was alive. Thus twice before, and jump at this hour, at this dead hour. Jump there means exactly, and exactly at this dead hour. With martial stalk hath he gone by our watch. And what particular thought to work I know not, but in the gross and scope of mine opinion, this bodes some strange eruption to our state. That's a confusing line, but what Horatio is saying, he's like, I don't know the exact reason why the ghost would appear, but I suspect it has something to do with the state of the country, that there's something political, something happening with the country that would cause it to appear. Good, now sit down and tell me, he that knows, meaning you, Horatio, why this same strict and most observant watch so nightly toils the subject of the land, and why such daily cast of brazen cannon and foreign mart for implements of war, why such impressive shipwrights, whose sore task does not divide the Sunday from the week? What might be toward that this sweaty haste doth make the night joint laborer with the day? Who is it that can inform me? So Marcellus is not part of the court. He's not a scholar, but he has been observing things that seem to suggest that not everything is going hunky-dory in Denmark, that there's something rotten in the state of Denmark. Something is up. And the list of examples he gives are a little hard to figure out, but just kind of walking through them. He talks about the nightly watch, which I believe is referring to him and the other guards. Why are they always on patrol now? It could also be the watch of the ghost, but the ghost doesn't seem to appear every single night. So I think that means them. We also get that casts of brazen cannon are being made. So they're making more and more cannons. And foreign mart for implements of war means that weapons are being shipped in, and that shipwrights, people who build ships, are working in a way that it does not divide the Sunday from the week. So they would have gotten Sunday off and probably worked the other 6 days of the week, but they are working so much, it's like they're never stopping. Like no one's taking a break for Sunday. So there's this urgency to their labor, that they are working a lot of overtime, so to speak. And people are working at night too, make night joint labor with the day, which is interesting because we'll see a line about time being out of joint, which is kind of mirroring this sentiment that something is going on because people are not doing their typical routines. Everything seems to be pushing toward war. And Horatio suspects that. He says, that can I can tell you, that can I. At least the whisper, like the rumor, the whisper goes so. Our last king, whose image even but now appeared to us, was, as you know, by Fortinbras of Norway, thereto pricked on by a most emulate pride, dared to the combat, in which our valiant Hamlet, for so this side of our known world esteemed him, did slay this Fortinbras, who by a sealed compact well ratified by law and heraldry did forfeit with his life all those his lands which he stood seized of to the conqueror. So we get that there was this battle between Hamlet of Denmark and Fortinbras of Norway. Now, both these people are dead now. The play just started. Both of them are already dead, but we have to know this sort of historical background. They went to combat against each other. Hamlet killed Fortinbras in that combat, and as part of the agreed upon rules, took possession of a bunch of land from Fortinbras. So the history lesson here is that Denmark and Norway are rivals in the modern sense of the word, not just fellows like it was used earlier. Modern rivals, modern sense of the word rival, enemies, and that when Hamlet kills Fortinbras, he takes some land. Against the which a moiety, which means appropriate portion, a moiety competent, against the which a moiety competent was gauged by our king, which had returned to the inheritance of Fortinbras, had he been vanquisher, as by the same cormart and carriage of the article designed, his fell to Hamlet. So basically, had it gone the other way, land would have gone to Fortinbras. So there was like agreed upon, whoever survives wins this land from each other as well. Now, so that was the past. Now we get to the present. Now, sir, young Fortinbras of unimproved metal, hot and full, hath in the skirts of Norway here and there sharked up a list of lawless resolutes for food and diet to some enterprise that hath stomach in it. So you see a lot of talk of food there. So young Fortinbras, this would be the heir to the throne. I believe it's the son of Fortinbras, not the nephew. But that gets a little confusing in this play. They talk about it again later. But basically the heir to the throne, probably son. Fortinbras's son, young Fortinbras, is preparing for what might be war. So you can see where Horatio is going with this, that it seems we might be looking for a return to war, revenge, or an attempt to take back that land. So we're talking about Fortinbras, who's in charge of Norway, and he's dead, and Hamlet, who's in charge of Denmark, and he's dead. But now we've got young Fortinbras, and of course we know Hamlet's important because his name's on the book cover, right? It's the title of the play, but we haven't met him yet. And he doesn't quite line up with his Fortinbras foil character there, that parallel character, which we'll see in the next scene. Anyway, young Fortinbras, blah, 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 stomach in it, which is no other, as it doth well appear unto our state, but to recover of us by strong hand in terms compulsatory those foresaid lands, so by his father lost. And this, I take it, is the main motive of our preparations, the source of this our watch, and the chief head of this post-haste and rummage in the land. So basically, as I said earlier, the reason the ghost appeared is that war is approaching. That's why the ghost appeared. That's why people are building all these ships and ordering weapons and all that. It is because we are going back to war with our old enemy, Norway. So the last generation's fight is about to become the current generation's fight. Bernardo says, I think it be no other, but even so, well, may it sort that this portentous figure comes armed through our watch, so like the king that was and is the question of these wars. Now, the word that I'm not even entirely sure I'm saying right, portentous, is a difficult one, but it has a couple interesting meanings. It can mean solemn. It can also mean a precursor to something big, and it can also mean an exceptional person. And what I love about that word choice is that I think the ghost means all three of those things. Sorrow of, being dead, the ghost, that something big is going to happen, and that also the ghost, if it is the ghost of the king, would be an important person, or the ghost of an important person, right? Horatio says, a mot, which is like a speck of dust, but it can also mean like a small thing. A mot is to trouble the mind's eye. In the most high and palmy state of Rome, a little ere the mightiest Julius fell, the graves stood tenantless. So here we're going to talk about Rome. And you might be like, man, this play is a little confused. It is. In between when the ghost arrives is confusing. We're going to understand it as best we can. It's not the most essential stuff for understanding the overall play. The whole thing is not geopolitical theorizing. Very little of the play is actually. So we're going to talk about historical example of Rome. Palmy state would be like bearing a palm. So very important. Palmy state of Rome, a little ere the mightiest Julius fell. So before Julius Caesar died, before he was assassinated, the graves stood tenantless, and the sheeted dead did squeak and gibber in the Roman streets. The dead walked the streets, according to Horatio, according to history here. As stars with trains of fire and dews of blood, that would be like comets and meteors, disasters in the sun, and the moist star upon whose influence Neptune's empire stands was sick almost to doomsday with eclipse. So we see eclipses, comets, ghosts walking around, and even the like precurse of feared events, the harbingers preceding still the fates and prologue to this omen coming on, have heaven and earth together demonstrated unto our climatures and countrymen. So what Horatio is basically saying is there is historical precedence, according to him, that when political action is taken, when kings die, when wars start, when assassinations happen, that we see reflections in nature, like natural events, but also things that are supernatural. So eclipses, ghosts, nature, supernatural, those things happen when big things happen to the kings, especially. And this shows up in a lot of Shakespeare plays. You see it in Julius Caesar, you see it in Macbeth. They thought kings were very important, that they were, put in place by God. So if something happened to them, rulers, if something happened to them, that God would reflect that in nature. And before we can get into any more theoretical history, the ghost thankfully appears. But soft, behold, lo, where it comes again. I'll cross it, though it blasts me. Stay illusion. So cross it here could mean stage direction wise, like cross to it, like you cross the stage. It could also mean making the sign of the cross, like as a thing of protection, up to the actor and director's interpretation. So this is Horatio talking to the ghost. If thou hast any sound or use of voice, speak to me. If there be any good thing to be done that may to thee do ease and grace to me, speak to me. If thou art privy to thy country's fate, which happily foreknowing may avoid, oh, speak. Or if thou hast uphoarded in thy life extorted treasure in the womb of earth, for which they say you spirits oft walk in death, speak of it. And then we have the cock crows, the rooster crows. Stay and speak. Stop it, Marcellus. So stop it, meaning Marcellus, stop the ghost. I just picture Marcellus like pulling on his sleeve. He's like, stop it, Marcellus. That long list of things is like, why are you here? Is there something bad that happened to you in life that we can fix? Like, is there an injustice? If so, tell me. Do you know something that's going to happen to our country? If so, tell me. Did you hide a bunch of treasure, as I hear you ghost, do? Sometimes people have a bunch of treasure and then they die, so they're ghost wanderers, I guess. I don't know. Tell me about that too. Horatio's like, well, if there's money involved, I'll take it. But basically, he's just trying to theorize why the ghost is there. But it starts to leave as soon as it hears the rooster. Marcellus says, shall I strike it with my partisan, which is like a weapon? Do if it will not stand. 'Tis here, 'tis gone. And these lines are really quick, like boom, 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 boom. As there's like chaos on stage as the ghost exits. We do it wrong, being so majestical to offer it the show of violence, for it is as the air invulnerable, and our vain blows malicious mockery. So there's no point in striking at it because it's like the air. We're not going to hurt it. It was about to speak when the cock crowed, is how we'd say it. And then it started like a guilty thing upon a fearful summons. It's a famous line, guilty thing upon a fearful summons. So it looked scared, basically, like it had done something and got caught when it hears the rooster crow. I have heard the cock, that is the trumpet to the morn, doth with his lofty and shrill sounding throat awake the god of day. And at his warning, whether in sea or fire, in earth or air, the extravagant and erring spirit hies to his confine, and the truth therein, this present object made probation. So basically what Horatio, I believe that's Horatio talking, yes? Yeah, what Horatio is saying is, I've heard that when a rooster crows, signaling that it's going to be morning, the spirit, the ghost has to, no matter where it is, has to run away as fast as it can to avoid the light. So they're establishing like the rules of the supernatural here. It faded on the crowing of the cock. Some say that ever against that season comes wherein our Savior's birth is celebrated. Christmas time, right? This bird of dawning singeth all night long. And then they say no spirit dare stir abroad. The nights are wholesome, and no planets strike. No fairy takes, nor witch hath power to charm, so hallowed and so gracious is that time. So they're talking about very holy times of the year where evil spirits have no power, where they don't show up. So have I heard, and do in part believe it. But look, the morn in russet mantle clad walks o'er the dew of yon high eastward hill. Break we our watch up, and by my advice let us impart that what we have seen tonight unto young Hamlet. For, upon my life, this spirit dumb to us will speak to him. Do you consent? We shall acquaint him with it, as needful in our loves, fitting our duty. Let's do it, I pray. And I this morning know where we shall find him most convenient. So the most important part of this scene, arguably, in my opinion, the most important part of this scene, other than, hey, a ghost appeared, is what are they going to do with the ghost? Because Shakespeare grabs your attention with the appearance of the ghost, but he makes you lean in and be interested by making the ghost not speak. Like, it's interesting to have a ghost. It's brilliant to have it be a silent ghost. And they need to figure out why this ghost is here. And they believe the best way to do that is to go tell Hamlet, who is the Prince of Denmark, right? According to the title. Well, he is. That's the title of the play. Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. Go tell Hamlet that they've seen the ghost of his father, the former king of Denmark, and they want him to talk to it, see what he makes of it. So that's why people will sometimes describe the ghost as the engine of the play. It's what moves, it sets everything in motion, it moves everything. Now, the other thing I'll say is that Hamlet is a long play, as we've already talked about. It's like 5 hours. If you do the whole thing without cutting a word, it's like 5 hours. So very few people ever do that, except Kenneth Branagh for film in the 90s. So quite often you're almost cutting down any Shakespeare play you perform. And probably when Shakespeare performed them, they would have been even trimmed down or shorter. We don't know exactly, but we suspect it. And there's other versions of these plays, like bad quartos and stuff floating around, that are shorter, of Hamlet specifically, of course. So oftentimes, almost always, you're trimming lines down. And a lot of lines in this scene would have been trimmed. A lot of that historical context, that history lesson, that geopolitical theorizing, a lot of that isn't all that necessary, or at least not in as much detail. The rules of the spirits and the thing about the rooster, you don't need to know all of that. So if you were confused by it, don't worry, because in scene 2, we go from all this general context to the specifics of what's happening. We go from political matters to family matters. And that's much more interesting. That's what people, cherish this play for and hold it in such high respect and high regard for is that stuff. So this is a great opening scene, but it is a little slow at times. So if you got through reading it, excellent. The play just continues to pick up from here, especially now that the ghost has appeared. Before we head out, I want to talk about the people who are always supporting the channel, which is Field Notes. And the Field Notes I want to talk about today specifically is their National Park edition. So they have, I believe, 18 different notebooks that are about different national parks. And these notebooks are super affordable. They are done in the kind of national park style. And I absolutely love them. They're fantastic. If you're going to a national park, it's great to pick one up to have it there, but they're just beautiful in general. And 5% of the proceeds go to support the national parks. You really need that support right now. So if you're interested in picking up any notebooks, down in the description, there is a link and a code for 10% off your first order. And that really helps out the channel. And these are almost always in stock. This is one of those ones that they keep around. So if you're interested in any of these, you can get a 3-pack. Each notebook in the 3-pack is different. And yeah, they're fantastic. So write down your great ideas, take notes on your play, chronicle your journey through a national park, whatever it is you want to do. And hopefully I will see you in the next video for Act 1, Scene 2. Thank you and happy reading.